Hey, everybody, welcome to Everyday Fi, where we explore the lives of everyday people pursuing financial independence. I'm your host, Megan Combs, and I am super excited. I'm dropping my second ever bonus episode today, and I'll be spilling the tea about quitting my corporate job. I'll be talking about the good, the bad, the why, and how it's going so far. If you're a subscriber of Everyday Fi Plus on Patreon, you'll be able to hear the entire juicy story. So make sure to sign up at patreon.com/everydayfi podcast. Okay, so first up, let me talk about how it's going so far. So I quit on January 2nd, 2026. I actually quit a little bit earlier than I had planned, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And it's been an interesting few months because I'm recording this on Sunday, March 1st. So it's been almost 2 months now. And the first month was interesting because the first week was hard. I had just done an embryo transfer that had failed. And so the first week of not working or doing the FI unemployment was tinged with a lot of sadness. But I was able to not have to go to a job that I also hated. So there was that. And that was definitely a blessing. And then the next few weeks were interesting because I felt very restless. Normally, what I do when I'm working a corporate job is when I have downtime, I either am at the gym or I'm watching TV. Like, I have very little energy to do anything else, which is unfortunate and really made, your life completely about your job, right? Which is not ideal for when you want to create a life that actually is meaningful to you. And so after stopping the job, I didn't need to do that anymore. Like, I had TV shows that I was like, I would sit down and watch them and get bored, and everything was boring me at the moment. Now, it could be just the types of shows that were out in January. I don't know, but I definitely just felt very restless. And then I also felt a little purposeless. Like, I was supposed to be pregnant, and that was supposed to be my purpose. And now I wasn't. And now I don't have a job. And so I felt, I don't want to say worthless because that's a little bit too far, but it definitely was creeping towards that. I just felt like my purpose was no longer there and I didn't have a purpose. And so I felt unmoored and it was not a pleasant feeling. But then once I started getting a little bit of a rhythm, which I will admit to this day, like, I still don't have a full schedule or rhythm or a routine yet. So still working on that. And I have asked people who have been five for quite a while and they still don't have it. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But I am working on doing certain events and stuff. So I did several FI events to help fill the time. And one of them was Richmond with the Donegans, the Extraordinary Life event that was in Richmond with Brad Barrett and the Donegans. And that was really great. And I got to drive there because I live in Durham and it was only a few hours away. So it was actually relatively affordable. And that was a really cool event. And I'd done one in Vegas 2 years ago. Of course, that was actually the impetus to starting this podcast. It's where I met Mitch, the co host that I have on here sometimes, if you guys remember Mitch. So I wanted to go to a second event that, especially now that I didn't have work, I could leave whenever I wanted that Friday and come back whenever I wanted that Monday and not worry about work. And the event was really great. I got to meet a lot of people and I love the Donegans. They're so funny. And if anybody ever has a chance to do one of their Extraordinary Life events, definitely take advantage of doing it in person. I think they have an online version, but in person is definitely preferable. But I got to meet a bunch of new FI people. I did have some people that I knew already there as well. And I got to work on what I want my life to look like coming up. And I got to talk to everyday people. And there were so many people who had such interesting stories. And I am definitely planning on reaching out to a lot of them to hopefully come on the show. So if I don't reach out to you though, and you met me there, please reach out to me because I don't always remember everybody's names. So I might not know who you are. And in the WhatsApp group that we're in, sometimes it just shows a phone number, it doesn't show a name. And so I'll reach out to people on the WhatsApp after probably a few weeks. I'm going to rest a little while and you'll hear why. I had another event right after this. So that was, let's see, that was 2 weeks ago. And then the week after that, so that was a weekend, it was a Friday to a Monday in Richmond. And then I got back home Monday, and then the next Friday went off to New York City for Camp Fi, which we, of course, lovingly dubbed bougie Camp Fi because New York City is obviously not the most fi city and definitely expensive. And we stayed at the Crown Plaza, which was really nice. It was near Times Square. And I've lived in New York City, of course. If you guys have listened to this show, then you will know that I lived in New York for a very long part of my journey to financial independence. And it was definitely expensive. And it was nice to be back. I will say I wouldn't have chosen to stay near Times Square, but it was still really cool to be back in the city. I went and ate at one of the restaurants I used to work at twice because I love the food there. And I tried to convince some people from the group to come, but people were not interested in vegan food, which, okay, fair. Vegan food is a little weird for some folks, but I had a great time. If anybody's ever in New York and curious, it's called Peace Food Cafe, and it's the one I worked at was on the Upper West Side, and it's iconic. It was actually in a movie at one point. Don't ask me the movie, I cannot remember. It's like Phoebe something, I don't know. Anyway, but it's a very cool interior, very good vegan food. There's also really good pastries if you are down for vegan pastries. Oh God, they're so good. And it was great to be back. The funny thing was is there was a blizzard that hit really hard when we were there, and it was something that a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's a record blizzard. It hasn't happened in the last decade." And I was like, "Yeah, I remember the last one. I was living in New York for the last one, and I remember having to still go to work and being a little annoyed at my boss and having to trudge through several feet of snow." And this one honestly wasn't as bad. The problem was is that it stuck most of us there for several days. I was able to fly out Tuesday afternoon after my flight got canceled originally. I was supposed to fly out on Monday, it got canceled. And I was going to be flying out Wednesday evening at 10 o'clock, but I saw a different flight and got out on Tuesday, thank goodness. But there were people there until Wednesday evening. And we had a WhatsApp group as well. And that was also a really fun event. It was much smaller than the Extraordinary Life event in Richmond. I think the Richmond one was 115 and the Camp Fi was around 60 or 70. And again, I met so many interesting people. And sometimes I would ask them, like, I would love to have you on the show. And sometimes I think they were like, I don't really want to share my story, which I totally get. Like, it's a little nerve wracking to share your story for a public audience. Although I will tell people so far, I'm not as big of a podcaster as Brad Barrett with Choose FI or Paula Pant with Afford Anything, who was there, by the way. I got to meet Paula. It was awesome. Also, Mindy from Bigger Pockets Money was there, got to meet her. And it was a really cool event. And we had two speakers. One of them was Paula, of course. The other one was a guy named Gory who did it on Stoicism. And it was a really cool talk. And it was something that reminded me of some Buddhist traditions too, where you try to remain non-reactive or try to take events that are negative or not the best and look at them in a positive light. And it's not like toxic positivity. Like, it definitely says, feel the feelings you're feeling, but don't dwell on it and don't let it direct what your next move is. And I just really liked that talk a lot. And then Paula, her talk was about negotiating for what you want, and she had us do some role playing, which was really cool. I actually thought it was funny because when she said negotiating your salary can affect all the raises you have after that, I was thinking to myself, well, the way that my salary grew really fast is that I changed jobs every 2 years. So it doesn't really matter for promotions or raises if you do it that way. And that was definitely the fastest way to increase my salary. But she also taught you negotiations like how to get out of a gym contract if you were a gym member and they want to keep you, or even negotiating the FI path with a loved one who is maybe not on board and is really opposed to cutting back spending or increasing savings. So that was really interesting too. So very good talks. And a lot of it was much less like the Camp Fi's where we come together a lot. There's breakout sessions and stuff like that, and more seeing the city. And I got to go to a John Oliver taping, which was really fun with two of my new British friends. Hi, you guys, if you're listening, Martin and Andrew. And that was really fun because I think John Oliver is so hilarious. It's, if nobody's watched that before, it's the Last Week Tonight show. And he was talking about Twitter. I forget when the show airs. I think it aired the next like that next Sunday because we went to the taping on Saturday. So if you guys hear my cackle, yeah, that's me. And then I was supposed to go to a Broadway play, the Stranger Things Broadway play, but that got canceled because of the snow. But we did get to go to Tea at the Plaza, which was very expensive, but very good and very fun, and had a really good time with the 6 people I was at the table with. There was one woman, and she was giving us all of these stories about all the guys that had gotten messages on dating apps who were just terrible. And it was just a lot of fun. But anyway, I had a really good time doing that. I really loved going to New York and yeah, helped fill up some of the time. So that was last weekend. I've been basically resting this whole week that's a lot of travel for me. I'm not big on traveling a lot and it takes a lot out of me. It's also very social heavy, which I wouldn't say a full introvert, but definitely towards the introvert scale. I'm not shy or anything, but talking to that many people and having to engage that much in social endeavors definitely takes a lot out of me. So I have been resting this week. I haven't even gone back to the gym. I feel very guilty about that. I think I went back to the gym once with my personal trainer and I actually was getting lightheaded. So I'm not really sure I was ready to go back either. So I am going to go back next week for everything. Like I'm feeling good now. I've rested up and everything. But yeah, that's been the first 2 months. I mean, it's jam packed and there is a local group here in Raleigh and Durham that I'm trying to be more involved with. I don't usually go to the Raleigh events because I don't like to drive that far. And also people in North Carolina are terrible drivers and I hate driving so much. And so whenever there's a Durham event, I tend to go to those. And so the RTP Choose Fi local group is getting a lot more traction because of one woman, Kelly, who's actually putting a lot of effort into making it much better than it was. Thank you, Kelly, if you're listening. And yeah, it's really awesome. I think they just had a book club this last Saturday. I never actually got around to reading the book or I would have gone. And they have a coffee tomorrow morning, so I'll probably do that. I'm also trying to look at potentially doing some volunteer work and things like that to also fill my time. Also, it's about to be spring, so I'm working on gardening. So I've started to fill up my time. And I think the lack of structure is what's a little bit difficult, but I definitely am trying to figure it out and do what some of the other 5 folks do while they don't work. So I'm going to be keeping track on how it goes over the next year, and I'll keep y'all updated, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe and leave a quick rating. Also, hit up my Patreon at patreon.com/everydayfi-podcast for ad-free and bonus content. I'm Meghan Combs, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Fi.